Welcome to the Craft Life. In every episode, we'll dive deep into the rabbit hole of all things branding and marketing within the craft beer industry. Be prepared to be injected with tips, processes, and ideologies from those in the industry that are executing in a unique and creative fashion. If you're looking for ways to cut through all that noise and find or redefine your craft by creating long-lasting impressions, memorable experiences, all while having consistency in your attitude, belief, and values, then the Craft Life is a good fit for your life. Let's get crafting. Welcome to the Craft Life. This is episode 5. In today's episode, instead of me interviewing a brewer or a brewery owner, I decided to interview my good friend and co-worker, Kristen Hartnagle. Kristen is a personal brand strategist, Jedi, with the Brand Builder Group. And you'll find out why I call her a Jedi really soon. And we'll be discussing the importance of why you as a home brewer, a brewer who works at a brewery, or a brewery owner should definitely consider building your personal brand today more than ever. So welcome to the Craft Life podcast, and thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me as a guest, Sam. I'm excited to be here.
So before we get started, let's get a little bit of background about yourself and what you do as a personal brand strategist.
Certainly. Well, I actually have known the co-founders of the company for about 9 years. And so just the enthusiasm for doing something that helps mission-driven messengers get better out there in the world is something very appealing and very timely. And I love being a part of this movement to help people get out there.
Nice. So what exactly do you do as a strategist?
We move people through the kind of roadmap of getting clear on how to articulate who they are and who they serve and what they do and how they do it. Because most people don't spend too much time there. They already think they know themselves. And so what they put in front of the world kind of feels more like a billboard. It feels like we're talking at people. So the very first thing we want to do is help people define what makes them unique. Why should people work with them? And then we want to help them build a relationship engine, because most of growing a platform and getting awareness and having kind of like that attraction-based marketing work for you is when you have something that is operating like an engine. So we call it the relationship engine, where everybody on social media is driven to your website, specifically your blog, and then they drop into your ecosystem so that you can nurture those relationships. Once we know that's working, we want to help drive traffic to that. And then we can help people who are really looking to scale figure out what's the best way to build a team around you. And maybe you need some operations or delegating or assistance or sales. And so we're really good at helping people understand that what it takes to build a fully scaled, sustainable business. We've built multiple multi-million-dollar companies, and that's what we want to help people do.
Perfect. So even though on today's discussion, we're, getting deep with, discussing personal branding as it pertains to home brewers who are currently working at a brewery, or brewer owners, the information that Kristen is about to unleash is basically applicable to every personal brand, regardless of the industry you are targeting or who you are as a person. Is that correct?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I really think there's a misconception that building a personal brand is reserved for those people who are trying to become a mega influencer. Like they're just looking for brand deals or sponsorships, and they're trying to become famous and make money on their fame. And that's really not what we're talking about. We're really talking about creating the lens that you present any of the information you're wanting to offer in a way that is so valuable that the people you're trying to serve can feel who you are and that you're their person. So a lot of organizations are actually looking for people within their company. Who can we help establish some thought leadership? How can we help people kind of cast a net that they can cast as an individual that maybe the company can't cast? That will draw attention to who they are as a human being, which will therefore in turn bring more business to us. So personal branding is creating your voice in a way that you're providing such amazing value. And I think a little bit of a story might help. It used to be that we would pay people for their information. Like, you know something I need to know, so I'm going to pay you for it. But now you can Google anything. And so since you don't get paid for what you know, you want to give everything away for free. You want to be that voice. You want to provide such amazing value that even though somebody could Google this, why would they? They want to come get it from you because of your lens, your unique voice, the spin you give, and how you speak from the heart about how you're serving people. And I think that's what really we're trying to do, is help people build a personal brand and a business from that personal brand in service to the people you're trying to serve.
That's awesome. And so if you guys really get what she's really trying to say, is that everybody needs a personal brand this day. It's your digital resume, and only you have that important message to share with the world. And with the fact of, like you said, there's information galore out there, but only that audience can hear it from you. And that's why it's important in this day of age to build your personal brand. So with all that, let's get started and talk about the fundamental benefit of a home brewer, or brewer owner can have from developing their personal brand.
Absolutely. I think, just to dispel a myth that we kind of see a lot of entrepreneurs suffering from what I would call an entrepreneurial disease. It's like, we know we want to go into business for ourselves, but somehow we connect a dot that never should have been connected, that somehow means we need to do everything ourselves. There is so much to do. And so at Brand Builders Group, we really feel like there's not one right way. There's so many possible ways. What's more important than the way you choose is that you have a strategy, and that you have a strategy for the long game. Because, we're not going to tell people that you should use this or that way. What we want to do is say the reason that this might work for you is this. And that really comes from learning what your goals are over time. So when I'm thinking about the brewing industry, I'm thinking, how can you already crossed the hurdle of, I want to do this, and I want to stand out, and I want people to love what I'm creating. So how can we get past the idea that if I build it, they will come? You already said, I'm brewing this, but there's way more to it than that. And I think people also jump to the conclusion that if I build a website, they will come. That again is just that stagnant way of hoping people will find you. What building a personal brand is all about is proactively finding where all your people are. Maybe it's going on a podcast tour. Maybe it's speaking. Maybe there are things that you can do that will add to your credibility and help you gain exposure. And we want to help you figure out, what does that path look like for you? And then walk alongside you, holding your hand as you execute on these ideas to kind of take you to that next level.
So, like, as a home brewer, very similar to myself, I've been home brewing for about a little bit over a year. I love creating stouts. So my first step is, I'm kind of like, how do I get to be known? And I know that joining competitions is one thing to get your name out there, but that gets your name out to beer people, beer lovers. So if I'm trying to get my name out to the general public, there's a lot of information that's in here that I can share with people, and not on the way of bragging, but just showcase the cool things about my craft beer, my journey in craft beer, ultimately my future in craft beer. And there's a lot of experience and a lot of, and people, I think a lot of people too, since if you're just starting off, or you've been, you're a home brewer and you're just kind of scared, you don't want to, get because the homebrew world is kind of challenging, because some people say, like, oh, if you ask a question, you're kind of green, or you don't know what you're saying. So people are kind of timid, like, should I go out and talk about my passion? I might be wrong about a couple things, but this is what I'm passionate about. On my journey, I'm going to figure that out. And I think that a lot of homebrewers are kind of hesitant in a way that, listen, you can brew a good beer. yes, you're going to need to understand that you're going to have to go through the process of building a better beer. But in the same token, documenting that journey and sharing it with people gets people interested in your journey of your craft beer. So when you do open up your own brewery, they already know, like, hey, he's been doing this for 3 years in his backyard. He's been, went through every different problem up and down, and he perfected his skill versus just popping up with a new brewery that nobody knows. Yeah, it looks fancy, it has a nice location, but it doesn't really have any substance to it, or it doesn't have that brand that stands behind it. And that's kind of the benefit that I see with brand builders, is that you show the whole journey. And if you're timid and scared, like you said, you hold our hand and you get us to the next level. Because the biggest thing about personal branding, which I find, it's not about how many posting you do, but it's how do you view your end goal, and what steps are you taking to get to that next goal? And that's what brand builders does. But the best thing that I learned about brand builders is, before all that, before you think about posting and before you think about doing anything, you get inside of your head into the actual goals that you want and the problem that you're actually going to solve. Because that's the biggest problem, is like, I want to own my own craft brewery, but how are you going to be unique, and how are you going to stand out?
Absolutely.
And what problem exists? Mainly, not saying that there's a real problem, but how can you add different to the craft beer lovers that nobody else is offering? So that's a lot of mindset things that that I personally learned, from you and everybody else at the Brand Builder team, is how do you get inside and understand who you are and really look at your goal and that journey getting to that goal. And all steps, social media, blogging, websites, and all that technical stuff, ads and all that comes in play. But the first step is really understanding who you are and your path.
And I think these people who are very new in their businesses, we kind of all have that, a little bit of fear. It's like imposter syndrome. Why would anybody want to hear what I have to say when there's lots of other people who have already done way more than I've done? And I really want people to dig into that and pull it all the way out and look at it for the puny thought it really is. Because to be honest, we used to really only trust somebody who was an expert. But we've been burned. People who have said, I'm the expert and I know it all, they just have let us down. And so now we are living in an age where I want to work with a human being. I want to know the heart and the mind of the people that I'm choosing to give my business to. And I think the bottom line is, people do business with people more than people do business with companies. And if you don't know why somebody should buy from you than anybody else out there, then how are they going to know? So this journey into your own why are you passionate about doing this? Why we're much more attracted to somebody who says, look, I may not know it all, but I'm going to share with you everything I know. And then when we tap that out, let's grow together. Don't you want to work with that person way more than somebody who's like, I already know everything? We're just not attracted to that anymore. So to really address this imposter syndrome and say, no, I want to share my journey. I want people to come alongside and see what it is that I'm doing and kind of grow with me, because that authenticity and that heart is what makes a difference. And I think we also have another element of imposter syndrome, is thinking that I have to appeal to the whole world. Like, how is my message going to be heard all over the world? And that right there is self-defeating. Like, we shouldn't have that expectation. There's billions of people on the planet, and really all you need to have a successful business is your people. So we want to help you get clear on how to not try to appeal to the whole world, but how to have such a compelling voice and such clarity about who you are that you'll be a magnet to the right people instead of a megaphone to the world. And that comes from this deep soul searching that we do in phase 1, where we're really talking about your passions and your whys. Like, you already know it, but you don't know you know it. So we need to pull it out. And again, most people skip that, and they just start with, here I am, here's what I do, benefit, benefit, benefit. Don't you want to buy from me? And no, everybody's doing that. I don't want another, person talking at me about why I should buy from them. I want to know who you are and your heart and what you know. And that is how you're going to have that kind of qualifying. People are going to see you and they go, you're not for me. Or they're going to see you and they're going to go, you are for me. And it's okay to repel the people who are not for you. It's less work for you. We just want to be so clear that we are attracting our people, and that helps us grow.
Absolutely. And that's like for one question that I received from an actual brewer down here in South Florida was, I'm comfortable with being a brewer. I don't want to open my own brewery. I love working for a company that supports my vision in brewing. However, there's really cool things that can happen when you build your personal brand as a brewer, because not only that you're going to help uh, the company that you're working with, but it gives you opportunity to share your passion with the different world by doing podcasting, by being asked to speak at stages, by writing a book. There's so many opportunities that happen once you're able to create that small group of people who actually follow you, who love what you do, who love what you create, and are super passionate. Because every brewer has their reason and their passion and their beer that they want to create. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and having the ability to work for somebody, you don't have to worry about anything, just do what you love, but also talk and hang out and discuss what you love with the people. And the only way for you to effectively do that, just because you're at Bangin' Banjo's brewery and you're creating fantastic beers, does not mean that people know who you are, who's the one who's creating that beer. They only know the company who created that beer. So, and that's what I told him. And he was like, oh man, that's, so you're telling me right now, like learning how to ignite my personal brand gives me the ability to speak and using where I'm working at as a platform. But it gives me the ability to speak about the things that I love and the things that I want to do within the craft beer industry, or things I want to change, or things I want to see different, or, you know, just talk about the things, my passion that I love. And that was a really good, interesting conversation that I had.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, we're not talking about don't brand your beer. Absolutely brand your beer, brand your company. All of that kind of traditional marketing has its place, and that won't go away. We're just talking about the additional benefit of letting people know who you are, the face behind it, the story behind it. Because, I mean, think about it this way. What celebrities do you know that if they were going to give you a sneak peek into their life, that you wouldn't be like, oh, I'm so excited about that? The Rock is a great example.
Yes.
It used to be that when movie makers were going to make a movie, they were like, who is an actor that acts so well that he's going to help us put butts in seats to sell movie tickets? And we wanted those people who could act well. And I love The Rock and I love his acting, but he created a personal brand and has so many millions of followers that it changed the movie industry. It's like, if I want to put butts in seats, I'm going to book him, because there's no way you can keep his fans away from his movies. It is a hands down sellout blockbuster because of who he is. And look at the way he shares his heart and shares his story. You feel like everybody on the planet feels like they know him. And that's what we're talking about, is there is something special when I drink this beer that I love, that I know you. And so you might go, well, what about me? Like, a lot of people's first reaction is, I want my private life to stay my private life. Like, I don't want to like reveal my kids and my family and where I live. We're not talking about that. We're talking about what is important to you, what elements go into who you are to help you celebrate this. And now when I'm drinking your beer, I'm like, I love that guy or gal,
And that's a good point you brought up. And the owners of Saltwater Brewery, which I think I interviewed them in the last episode or the episode before that, they spoke about their passion was to be ocean synergetic. They love the ocean, and you can see that passion in their beer making. The best thing to have a sustainability program where the six packs that their beers come on are eco-friendly and they're made from spent grain. That also, the first initial thing was made from seaweed, from the ocean. So if it does get back in the ocean, it can, dissolve and go back into the ocean where it came from. So they took that step. So when you go to Saltwater Brewery, you're like thinking the owners, like everything about that brewery exudes what the owners are and what they stand for. And that's a really cool thing. And the owners themselves can definitely take that personal brand to the next level, because it's another mouthpiece that's telling that story, which is connected straight to their brewery. But it's just nice to see that the owners are super passionate about salt life, period, the salt world, and they injected that into their brewery, and everyone understands that, hey, these owners are beachy people. They love the ocean. They love to help the ocean, and they're doing their part to doing the change. So that's a pretty cool way to see how your personal brand is injected into your business brand, and it actually speaks without you having to tell people. It's actually seen in the environment and through everything. And that's kind of how personal branding and your business branding kind of works together. And
You're so right. And I think, Sam, some of the listeners might be saying, well, I don't know what makes me unique. Like, I don't have that thing that goes like, okay, I'm ocean friendly. And so a lot of people might be saying, well, I don't think I'm ready to talk about building a personal brand until I figure that out. And that is really the wrong thing to think, because most people who start on their journey with Brand Builders Group, they're not sure. That's really what happens as a result of the exercises we do to pull it out of you. It's in there, but you're too close to it. So we need to help kind of go through these soul searching exercises, and then finding that language that does help you radiate what that uniqueness is.
Absolutely. And to kind of like just put this out there, a lot of people are, like you said, the imposter syndrome is like, I know a good buddy of mine, he's a realtor. He's been a realtor for 13 years. Currently, he is not at the level that he wants to be at, but he's been leading people for a very long time. And I can't say he's nervous or scared, but he doesn't think that he has the leadership capability to talk about leadership. But he does. He's been a leader for almost 12 years, 13 years. And he leads a team of 9 or 8 people, but he doesn't feel, since he's not at that stature where he wants to have a team of 30 to 40 people, that he can't talk about leadership. But in essence, he can. And I'm telling him all the time, you've been leading people from a solo shop to a shop of 10 people, and you're close and you do things that a lot of people don't do in their businesses. And that can help people if you're able to speak about the skill set that you have with the leadership development and stuff like that. But,
that was good. I want to say something about that just for a second, because I think that there are some humble people who are feeling like, a personal brand is going to require me to kind of show my credibility. And I had a client cry when she saw everything she has ever done on paper when we were crafting her expert bio. And it's like, your friend who did not really understand that he already did have some leadership experience that he could highlight and really help people be aware of. Most people are like that. It's like we try so hard to do something, and then when we do it, we dismiss it because we're trying for the next thing. How often do you really pull everything out and look at it and go, oh my God, I'm pretty much a badass? Like, you just don't do that. And that's another exercise that we do, is help you craft an expert bio that, again, is talking to the people you want to serve, not trying to appeal to the whole world, but really highlighting the hearts and the minds of the people you are really wanting to impact. And so another exercise is, if you're not going to try and appeal to the whole world, who is your core target audience? Who are the people that are going to be more inclined to want to know you? And so that helps us to first know your heart, know who you're serving, and craft that messaging. Your bio is part of that messaging, but there's so much involved. That's why it's like, I have these calls with people who are thinking about having, like, what would it be like to build a personal brand? And the first thing I hear is, as an entrepreneur, I wake up so excited because there's so many things I can do. But then I go to bed pissed off because I haven't done anything, because there's so many things I can do. And that's it. You can run on the hamster wheel and get really exhausted. What you need is a strategy. You need the roadmap so that you can see the long game of how this is going to pay off and help you grow your business.
Absolutely. So, as I do in every episode, lastly, I want to leave our home brewers, our brewers, and our brewer owners with one tip that they can, if they haven't done before, what can they do right now to start the process of building their personal brand?
I would say, get into your own uniqueness. Get into your own mind and say, why am I doing this? Why do I care? Why do I want people to drink my beer? Why do I love to brew beer? And kind of figure out what is driving you. And sometimes it's what you're super excited about. Sometimes it's like, I saw that and I didn't want to do that. That kind of ticked me off. And so I'm passionate because I don't want to see that. Kind of like the ocean friendly eco, I wanted to make a beer that was responsible for the planet, right? So tapping into your passion could be what you love, could be in response to what pisses you off, could be in response to what breaks your heart. But when you can really tap into why you're doing this, it helps you craft those messages that are going to attract the people that are going to want to work with you.
You brought up a good point. Just to close this out, one of a brewer that I did have this kind of breakthrough moment with, he said, beer is a great thing. Crafting beer is great, but he wanted to create an environment where like-minded people can come, huddle around a cup of great beer, and just talk about things that they want to do in life. And so his thing was, it's really not about the beer as much as he thought it was. It's more about bringing people together.
I
And
love that.
I was like, whoa, that blew my mind, because he was like, after us discussing this and discussing the problem, he was like, oh, I want to create the best beer. I want to create this. I want to do this. I want to do this. At the end of the day, it wasn't, he loves creating beers. He's going to do that. But the thing is, he wanted to create an environment where people come and just gather. And that's what we got from that. So his mindset now is not all about the beer. It's about, how can I create a place where people can come and just get together and have good conversations.
Awesome.
So with that being said, if you're interested in learning more on, obviously you see this rabbit hole gets really deep with personal branding, you can sign up for our free video course from Kristen and I's really good friend and business partners, AJ and Roy, where they'll take you to into personal branding deeper than we just did on this conversation, to further drive home the fundamentals of igniting your personal brand. And you can sign up for this free video series, which is amazing, at brandbuildersgroup.com. And I'm going to say it again. It's also going to be in the description of this podcast, brandbuildersgroup.com/FSF/SP. Again, that's brandbuildersgroup.com/FSF/SP. And the description will be at the bottom. Any last words?
Well, I just wanted to say, AJ and Rory, you can feel their heart. You can feel how much they want to help mission-driven messengers. And it's great just to explore, what is building a personal brand all about? And I think that First Steps to Famous video course is a great way to learn more about it. So check it out. And I hope you do want to let us help you explore what building a personal brand for you would be like.
Absolutely. So to the home brewers, the brewers, and the brewer owners, listen, the rabbit hole for personal branding can do wonderful things for yourself, get you to places that you never thought you can get to. And on this episode, we just touched the very tip of the iceberg, but you definitely want to check out the free brand call. It's going to go a little bit deeper. It's going to explore things that we haven't even touched on. And it's great information at the end of the day for you just to go through there and do the exercises. And as Kristen said before, the first thing we want you guys to do after this episode is think about the things that are unique to you. Definitely jot that down. Don't leave without doing that, or that's it. That's all we got. So
yeah. And hey, I just wanted to say it's Rory and AJ Vaden. Rory Vaden, AJ Vaden. You're going to love them. So do that First Steps to Famous video course. Thanks so much for this time, Sam.
Absolutely. And this ends our episode 5 of The Craft.